El Rentolito Clufo, or Ranto for short, again, trying to express to the populace some information that I think they might be able to benefit from. Um, anyway, today's topic of the session would be social contract. Magna Carta, I believe, was the first official social contract. Probably should do a little more research on the Magna Carta in and of itself, but the whole concept of a social contract is a contract between government and the governed. Government uh, benefits populace in a lot of ways. The governed uh, provide government its power, wealth, livelihood. Everything that makes government possible comes from the governed. My personal preference as far as what I believe to be the best social contract that has been put into law here on earth by any government so far would be the Declaration of Independence of the United States, declaring independence from England. But within that is the social contract component. Throughout the Declaration of Independence, there's components referencing that the importance that when government gets out of line and is causing problems for the populace, it is not only the right but the duty of those who can to do something about said problem government. This is part of the Social Contract Declaration of Independence of the United States. Another component of that which I consider the best social contract that's been put in place here on Earth is the segment that was edited by Benjamin Franklin, personally my favorite of the founding fathers of the United States, that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these rights include life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, keep in mind a lot of the founding fathers were Freemasons, and they've got this fetish or desire for things coming in threes. So they threw in the component of pursuit of happiness. Reality is, pursuit of happiness is already covered under the right to liberty. Just for definition purposes, just to keep everybody up to speed, the definition of liberty at the time of the signing of the Declaration of Independence of the United States was individuals or groups to govern themselves. It's imperative that it was put into the United States Declaration of Independence not only to express the importance to the populace and the rest of the world of their goals and ideals when separating themselves from the tyranny of England, that these truths to be self-evident, the these are simply facts of reality. Life has the right to do whatever it chooses as long as it doesn't affect some other entity. Now, let's at least migrate up the scale to humans and the concept of sentience and adulthood, things of that nature. Reality is, adults not only are capable of making decisions for themselves, but are responsible for their decisions and take responsibility for said decisions. I'm all for redefining what is considered an adult within the United States of America. But once you agree that an individual is an adult, that that individual has the unalienable right to liberty to do whatever they choose as long as they're not affecting someone else. That's That's simply an altruism. I mean, anybody that doesn't just simply understand that concept innately has some cognitive issues. Let's put it that way. I'll try not to be really harsh on those that just don't automatically understand this, but I understood it at age 3. Now, I might be a little different. I mean, I suffer from various medical conditions, one of which has not been diagnosed, but I believe that I suffer from an undiagnosed form of autism that causes me to insist upon logic, reality, fact, things of that nature. As a result, I don't simply arbitrarily accept what someone tells me. I analyze and determine whether or not what's being said can even be fact or reality. But back to the concept of social contract. It is imperative that governments recognize this reality. Governments that refuse to uphold individual and group liberties are destined for disaster. Eventually, the populace will revolt against a government that perpetually violates their rights. Unfortunately, that's been going on throughout the entirety of the United States. But let's keep in mind that as of 1776, things were just getting started and they were trying to improve government. Following resolution with the Revolutionary War and years to follow, the U.S. government continued to try to express the various rights of the populace and uphold those rights. It was even realized at the signing of the Declaration of Independence that slavery was in fact illegal. But Andrew Jackson managed to put through the concept that, look, we'll wait until we'll let later generations actually resolve this one. We've got enough to handle just getting everything working functional. And the country was on the path to improvement throughout about the first 150 or so years. And I mean, there were backslides here and there. One of the stupidest constitutional amendments was the prohibition of alcohol. But one big difference about the prohibition of alcohol versus, say, seatbelt laws would be that the prohibition of alcohol was done in a legal manner and also specified that individuals could produce alcohol for themselves within reason. And it was all about whether or not the production of alcohol was to a stage wherein it would be sold. So individuals could produce a plenty of alcohol for themselves to consume, or for themselves or their family, etc. Those laws are still on the books. The fact is, when my roommate and I were brewing beer, we looked into it and we found the laws that stated how much beer we could brew legally without being reclassified as a brewery. So, and it was pretty significant. I believe, from what I recall, it was like 400 gallons of beer per person. I've had my bouts with alcoholism, but I don't think I've ever drank 400 gallons of beer within a year. But regardless of all of that, point being, government must recognize these realities and protect them. If they fail to do so, then the populace will revolt. And you're seeing in today's society the riots pertaining to the George Floyd incident. I will get into the ethical, legal, and moral ramifications of all sides of that topic within a different video, but for now, this is an example of the populace informing our government that these policies that are illegal in reality, and I'll get into how they're illegal in some other rant, but creating a system that results in the murder of an individual that was suspected of a non-violent crime, murder by way of holding the person down who didn't even need to be held down in the first place. Fact is, there's plenty of videos showing what actually happened. And in the United States, we do have a policy of, we have laws of right to speedy trial. I haven't checked the wording, but I'm kind of under the impression that the right to speedy trial could be the right of the populace to have the accused that are clearly guilty. The populace has the right to see those that perpetrated the injustice to be brought to justice in a speedy manner. Rioting, destroying property, things of that nature are of no use whatsoever. That's just tearing down something that has nothing to do with the subject. Now, morally and ethically, I don't agree with this legally, but because every individual has a right to due process. But morally and ethically, lynching the perpetrators would probably be, I could kind of back that morally. Can't back it legally, but I can back it morally. So, don't be destroying things, but I'm fine with the concept of you insisting that the jail can't operate properly until they give up the criminals and allow for a separate court, legal court, to put them on trial quickly. If the court system that already is in place can't facilitate that, it's okay to force government to do its job properly. It's not okay to go around destroying buildings because you're not satisfied that government isn't doing its job properly. So, people, let's all grow up and do things logically and reasonably. Quit destroying things unnecessarily. Just inform your elected officials that it is their job. They are sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and if they can't do that, then someone else needs to replace them. Thank you, folks. That's enough of a rant, I believe. Have a good day.